What's up, everybody? Simon here. In this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about the middle class really getting destroyed by the feds, by the policies of today, and just where they sit in terms of being between the lower class and obviously the higher classes or even the top 1%. Before I get into this video, please go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Check out some of my other videos, and let's get into this one. Over the past 50 years, America's middle class has been shrinking, and it's pushing the middle class either in the upper or the lower income brackets, mainly the lower income brackets, because it's hard to get into the upper income bracket. So the reason the middle class is shrinking is simple. Their income is not keeping up with inflation, with taxes, government benefits or offerings. The middle class tends to have children, which are very expensive to have, and they're not getting any help or assistance. So the standard middle class average income has not increased enough to keep up with the inflation that we've seen rapidly growing in the past year alone. And in the past 50 years, it's been the same pattern, forcing the middle class to actually be pushed into the lower class, which actually gets more benefits from the government. Now, the definition of middle class really depends on where you live in the country or even in the world. So it averages. In the US, it could be anywhere from $52,000 from a family of 3 people to $152,000 to $156,000 to be considered a middle class. So if you're, say, in the Bay Area, $156,000 actually may not even put you in the middle class, sadly. Compared to 1970, the middle class income was $59,934. In 2020, it's $90,130 or so. That's a 50% change. Now, if you look at the upper class, 1970's income was $130,000, and in 2020, the middle class income was $220,000, a 60% change. And in 2020, the upper class income was $220,000, which is relatively a 60% change. Lower income also has seen a 45% change. Now, if you compare to the change of income to the change of inflation, you could see how much a home cost in 1970. And the median price of homes in 1970 was around $25,000. And in 2020, the median home price was around $250,000 to $330,000, according to Zillow. So if you take that change in price based on the income and the multiplication to get from $20,000 or so to $250,000, you're looking at a 10x plus increase in pricing. What that means is that the middle class and even the lower class incomes do not come near to a 10x to afford a home. So it's sad that the middle class is shrinking, because what it means is it's going to drive further more families into poverty. It's going to push that envelope of what the middle class truly is and redefines. Now, if you know, the middle class is the backbone of the country. It's the workers. They are the workforce of the country. They pay the most taxes, etc. And guess what? Recently, a bill got passed with the feds that would hire an additional 87,000 IRS agents, I believe. And these IRS agents are going to go after, guess which 2 classes? They're going to go after the middle class. They're going to go after the upper class. And the reason being is because the middle class and the upper class have notoriously been the classes that kept the economy up with taxes and payments. The lower income classes are not going to be of interest to these IRS agents because they have no money to pay the IRS. In fact, they're relying on the government to pay for them versus the government relying on the middle and the upper class to pay them to keep the economy going. So this new bill that was passed will actually hurt both the middle class and the upper class, and I think it will further shrink the middle class. So if you're in the middle class category, how do you stay above the market? How do you beat this recession? How do you beat this inflation, which is actually a stagflation, where we're not making enough money to keep up with inflation. At the same time, the economy is shrinking. So we had 2/4 of the GDP actually shrinking, which is technically by definition a recession, no matter how they try to define it now. That's what it's been for many decades. So overall, what you got to do is really reevaluate your spending. I think you may not be able to control your income, your chances of acquiring more money during a difficult time, but you can regulate your spending. That means not buying as many things on Amazon. That means not spending as much money at restaurants or going out, going on an extra vacation, etc. So you could control your spending. 2, reevaluate all your investments. There may be some investments that you have to part ways with. There may be some investments that you need to enter. However, overall, your investments into the market, into cryptocurrency and real estate can potentially be all in jeopardy if the economy continues to shrink and the recession deepens and gets worse. So you have to see what the best opportunity is for you to be either cash heavy right now or maybe blue chip investment heavy in the stock market. Obviously, I always recommend you get the best possible advisor, give them your full situation, and make sure they understand where you're coming from and where you need to end up. Also, in the middle class, if you're not making ends meet or barely struggling and you pushed into the lower class, take advantage of all those offerings by the government or potentially start working a second job. As someone that's an entrepreneur, I never settle at one company or one job. I try to do a lot of different things, including, say, YouTube for passive income, real estate investing, several businesses, you name it, I'm in it. But that's the mindset you have to continue to either stay above the water in this sinking recession or really just get to that top tier or the 1% tier out there. So overall, my advice is if you are in the middle class, you're going to be struggling the most because you may be holding down a job that's not going to raise your income to the levels you need it to be raised to keep up with the higher costs of living nowadays. And at the same time, you're not getting or you're not in that bracket where the government is just handing things out to you and making your life a lot easier. The government is punishing the middle class by taxing them more and more. They're going to punish the upper class as well. I think they're going to be auditing the middle and the upper classes more. And on top of that, they understand that the lower classes are not the ones that are going to contribute to their wallet or to the bottom line of the economy. It's the middle class. It's definitely the upper class. And the lower class is kind of, unfortunately, a feeder versus a contributor. Now, it doesn't make you a bad person or anything like that. It's just basically the true logistics of who has money and who can the government take money from. And that is the reason you don't see, say, a homeless person on the street worrying about a ticket because they know they're not going to pay it. Versus you at a traffic stop, you get caught, guess what? You have something to lose and you have something to give, which is your license and money towards the courts for a traffic ticket, etc. So it's just rules of the economy, rules of law, and the rules of who has what and what can be taken. So overall, the middle class is in deep trouble because it's going to shrink. It's going to push more to the lower class, and then the upper class is going to have to pay for it by getting taxed some crazy amounts. And we've seen that happen in like France, where the highest tax rates were near 70%, which is incredibly ridiculous and forced a lot of people to move out and do some creative finances. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're in the middle class, keep moving. Hopefully you get to the upper class. Try to stay away from the lower class, but if you fall in it, take advantage of what's there. And if you're in it and you want to keep pushing, get another job, hustle, keep grinding. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a like for the little research that I've done. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I appreciate it. Catch you in the next one.